You're listening to the Renegade Blitz, the best podcast for Steelers fans by Steelers fans. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. Read articles on RenegadeBlitz.com, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app.
And welcome back to the Renegade Blitz. I'm Ty Polk with Chris Ward and Brandon Walker, and now we're doing our, bye-week recap of the Steelers season so far. And at 3-3, it's been an up and down season, but this episode, we assure you, will not be up and down because, ladies and gentlemen, it's official. We have a Point Park quartet on this show today. We would love to welcome, and it's a true honor to have Urinating Tree. He's known for so many of those great YouTube videos you see, like, for example, during the entire Antonio Brown and whenever the Steelers just couldn't get out of trouble, the Days of Our Steelers, This Week in Sports Ball, which is basically an entire breakdown of the entire NFL week as it is. And of course, the Haters Guide to whatever other season of sports out there. And you, Tree, it's such an honor.
Thank you for having me on, boys. Glad I could make it on, man. I didn't realize all three of you were from Point Park. I thought it was just like, I know like one or two of you. I didn't actually realize that at the time.
Yeah, that's how we all met each other. Was all at Point Park.
What class are you guys?
I graduated in I guess 28. Like I was done in December 2017, but I graduated in the spring of 2018.
2018, nice.
What about you, Brandon?
2014, December 2014. You know, you get the walk. They only got one graduation per year, so 15, I got the walk.
I'm a double graduate. I graduated with the bachelor's in 2017 and the master's in 2019.
Nice. I'm 2010, so a little bit old, unfortunately.
Did you? I seen the radio dramas. Did you go to WPPJ like myself?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, I was production director spring of my senior year.
For 3 years, I was the news director, and I noticed that you had radio dramas. I am the proud recipient of the 2016 Intercollegiate Broadcasting System's Best Radio Drama. And when I seen those, when I went back, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Small world.
I didn't even realize.
I did not have a journalism background. I was actually SAEM, but I got an internship at 93.7 The Fan without my man Jeff Hathor, there would be no Brandon Walker. So I know you listen to The Fan and everything with Dunlap, and I know Starkey and Muller.
I used to work for that cluster, but I wasn't part of The Fan. I was actually part of the Y108 100.7 like cluster. So like I didn't really have any affiliation with The Fan per se. I think I shadowed on one of their broadcasts because I kind of wanted to be on it, but nothing really came out of it. But
around the same
thing. I
thing.
That connection too.
Yeah, promotions assistant. So I ran around everywhere for the year and change before the pandemic, of course. Yeah.
I was bored up, so that was I
was trying to get in the board op, still trying, but
it's tough now because they downsized a lot of stuff. Like when I started, it used to be about like 10 to 15 hours a week. I used to wait tables on the side. And then like once CBS Radio, as it was at the time, they cut down, they laid off a bunch of people, eliminated a bunch of positions. So I went from like 10 to 15 a week to 10 to 15 a month. And I'm sitting there like, there's no point to me being here. So I just like, I quit because it's just like, okay, 10 to 15 a month. It's just like, what do you do? And then they got bought out by Entercom, I think a couple of months later.
Right.
And now it's Odyssey as they try to bring me back on. But now we started the pleasantries of our journey to here. I got to ask, of course, how did you get your start as a YouTuber? And your following right now is great with 489,000 subscribers.
Mm-hmm. I would say like, I mean, it happened like I dabbled like on and off for a while. Like I used like when I was in college, I mostly did it to like hone skills per se. Like I just did like it's really bad in hindsight. It was just like old like video game ripoff reviews like that sort. It's like it's not that good like in hindsight, but it like helped me to really like kind of build like sort of like audio, visual, like kind of get that sort of stuff down. YouTube back then was like the Wild West. It's just like anything went. you immediately put like anything by Viacom, it's insta-claimed and they took it down. It's just, it was interesting times. But for the most part, I had like stopped doing it for a long time. Like I remember my channel like lay dormant from something like, it was like a different channel I started on. It was like 2010, 2011, did some stuff like just really just off the wall stuff. It's just like, whatever, I'm just doing it for shits and giggles. But like 2016 is when I kind of sort of came back into it. And I think it was like the 2016 election that really like kind of just like got me back into it, oddly enough. I thought it was just going to be a one-off, just ramble about some stuff for 3 minutes. Got some really old Radio Shack mic in my room, and just like you hear all like the rumbling and all that stupid stuff going on. But then like you kind of get that spark back. And I think that's like, it's just like one domino leads to another. And then the Cleveland Browns had their first 0-16 season, or were close to it. Make a video on that. And then like, okay, one off. Next domino falls. Jacksonville Jaguars, really bad. And then like, okay, this sucks. Let's do a video on it. Then you just do it. And then it just keeps going to sports. And then experimentation leads to Haters Guide. And then Haters Guide leads to the Super Bowl. And then you realize, okay, something could be here. So as I said, it's just like, I wish I had, like I said, like, oh, I had this great plan and everything's like amazing. No, not really. It's just like, it was a perfect storm, to be completely honest with you.
And you, Tree, I was wondering, being a popular figure on YouTube, how do you come up with content that's appealing to your audience? Is it just a natural feel, or is there a lot of planning associated with it, like scripting and so forth?
There's a little bit of it. I know, like, I feel like there is a lot of scripting. I script nearly everything out that I can. I don't think I'm that good at improv, unfortunately. But I would say for the most part, I think there's like certain things that are like timing wise, but at the same time, you have to have the right like timing in a way for certain events, like say like a team-based video or like a league-based video or something like that. You have to like realize, okay, now is the right time to go at it because you've hit like the right point per se. Like say, like a couple months ago when Bishop Sycamore came out. It's just like, okay, I was just doing random digging on Twitter, and then it comes out like, oh shit, like things happen, and then you have like a turns into a full-fledged video. And then you have like, baseball season, you have the playoffs right now, you have stuff going on there. World Series will probably be this week, I would guess. Hockey came out last week. And like there are other videos that I feel like maybe there's some downtime. I feel like maybe there's, like March, May, August. Get more of your passion projects out of the way, I feel like.
Side note there.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that I don't know if you put any footage of Bishop Sycamore in Pittsburgh, but it was me who was behind the feature camera there. So
at Stowe Rocks.
Yeah, the Stowe Rocks. Really? It was actually at Woodland Hills.
Yeah, it was
played against Stowe Rocks. Yeah,
because like it was technically a home game for Bishop Sycamore. So
Western PA versus everyone showcase.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
I actually played my old alma mater when they were Christians of Faith. Oddly enough, I'm just sitting there like, really? They played my alma mater? Like, holy shit. Okay.
Oh, what high school did you go to?
North Allegheny.
Oh,
so as I said, like, it was like one of the first schools they played. I'm like, really? They played them? I mean, they probably didn't realize it at the time. They needed something to fill the schedule. Like, they're like a football powerhouse now, but yeah. That was surprising to me. It's like came out of left field.
All right. Speaking of locales, you had a video last week. I mean, it was a couple of days ago on Thursday, talking about how disgusting a certain organization that's in Washington. That happens to be my hometown. Yeah, I grew up basically marinating in this. How do you feel about the organization? I know how you feel about it, and I know you should sell. How you feel he should sell the team, because I read your your video earlier today. How do you feel about that? Do you think he will be able to sell the team? They're going to make him force it to?
Well, if Donald Sterling could sell the team, I mean, Dan Snyder could. I think it's like a situation where you have to find like a smoking gun or something that directly connects Dan Snyder to everything that happened. Once that happens, you have to sell it. And it's probably going to be to Jeff Bezos or someone along that ilk, somebody that has the money to afford it and be able to rehabilitate the image of what was once the Redskins or the football team or what they're probably going to be called in the future. I mean, with the Sean Taylor situation, it just felt like a rush job. They said they were planning it for a couple months, but if you're planning for a couple months, like I actually saw the ceremony. It's just like really rushed, like 10 minutes. You play a couple old NFL films performances. You have like a quick narration, and then you just have like a bunch of random former Redskins or like Washington players that are just there. And it just seems rushed. Like they couldn't even get Joe Gibbs, apparently.
I didn't even see Clinton Portis or Santana Moss because those are you guys. I don't know if I didn't get to see
they didn't even identify any of them, so I couldn't tell who was who. Bad. Like, I mean, you think LeVar Arrington would be in like the 2000s or something like that. Like, I couldn't identify anyone. Like, they could have gotten just guys off the street and called them like former Redskin players. It's like some guy in like old Redskin apparel. It's like, hey, you look like a guy from 80s Redskins. So you go on the field, pretend you're a member of Washington. Sad part of me is I can see them doing that too. And that's depressing to say, but that's just how like Dan Snyder works. Especially like you think because of like everything that came out, the emails, a lot of like controversy there. They think there may be more there too, even though the NFL says there's nothing going on, which I think is BS if we're going to be completely honest here. But the family comes out and says they got really short notice of it, which you think they'd be the first to tell them like, hey, we're going to retire Sean Taylor's number. I mean, this was one of the best players in your organization's history.
Yeah.
And you treat him like this.
Yeah. But
it's like going off about like the 80s Hogs and then just like having like a little backyard barbecue about it or something. It's just like it comes off as rushed.
They can give emails. I think they have a smoking gun.
I think,
but if you're going to do that, they're going to have to get Kraft for what.
Well, they're going to have to get a lot of people. I think a lot of people are connected. Because I mean, look at the people that are connected in terms of coaches. Like, I mean, LaFleur went through there. Sean McVay went through there. Kyle Shanahan went through there. Mike Shanahan went through there. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm talking about what I'm talking about is other owners.
That too, yes. I mean, you're also looking at
Kraft. Mm-hmm. Jerry Boy, he ain't no angel.
Oh yeah. Oh, Jerry Boy organized 3 straight moves. Rams to LA, Chargers to LA, Raiders to Las Vegas. There's that whole issue with the NFL in St. Louis. I mean, if you were paying attention, they got hosed during that whole situation.
I know about that.
And I mean, it's gonna come out that it's like, they didn't act in good faith, which I mean, if you were paying attention, it was pretty obvious. Kroenke threw the entire city under the bus. But I mean, like it's coming to like a waypoint, I feel like, especially with like the NFL in general. Like the years of like trying to focus on greed and money is catching up with them right now.
Oh yeah.
Or it's starting to.
And speaking of lolcows, you had tweets about the Steelers fans doing the wave at the game. Mm-hmm. And I was at that game, and you betcha I did the wave. I regretted it almost as immediately as I went back up and down. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? So what's your thoughts on the Steelers fan base and Yinzers overall?
I mean, I'm not exactly have a positive opinion about them, but I was like, I'm part of it. Technically, I grew up like that. I'd probably be doing the same thing 10 years ago. Because I mean, you probably have a couple drinks in you, especially on a night game. You're probably drinking all day.
I was sober, man.
No, I mean, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking like other people. Like, dude, you're tailgating all day. It's a night game. It's like, 50 degrees. It's like, I mean, fourth quarter. I mean,
I want to preface this. Seattle had 3 injuries during that game, and every single time, no matter what it was like the entire bench went to a knee, no matter what. Yeah. So there was a ton of confusion out there. But once they seen the quiet pleas out on the board and also
the Steelers come out.
Yeah, the Steelers started doing it. Was like, okay, the wave died. It was like it went through 2 rolls and that was it. They tried to start it earlier before that, but it didn't get traction. And it finally did. And it was like,
and it's like, dude, dear.
Even Seahawks fans were doing it.
Yeah, I've heard that. I know that. Like, I did hear that, but it's still like a really weird look.
Yeah, it was a bad look. It was a bad look.
we were talking on the podcast the other day too. Not only was it a bad look, but like who does the wave anymore? Like Brandon was mentioning, like that's like so 1990s or something.
The wave kind of comes around every now and again. I feel like it comes usually for like blowout games or just like baseball. I there was a wave that happened at a Pirates game I went to this season. I think it was like an ugly blowout game. I think it was like 13-2. I think it was Pirates were winning that one, if I remember correctly. But yeah, they still do the wave. I've seen a couple waves at Penn's games over the years too.
Well, that's typically when the wave happened, especially when old Mellon Arena was up. They just they were just wild. Like that corporate crowd going in the CEC PPG. I was like, you know what? I don't like it, but I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, I mean, they needed a new arena. I mean, there's a charm about going up to like F balcony at Mellon Arena and seeing the entire ice from the bleachers, paying like $20-25 a ticket. But I mean, they did need a new arena.
Oh man. So all right, let me ask a question. We're just freestyling it right now. What is your favorite moment that ever happened at Mellon Arena?
Mellon Arena.
I'll give you mine, and you answer it. I'll let you know because you probably would know a epic moment happened that people won't talk about.
Mellon Arena. My favorite moment, like the biggest moment for me I saw there was Darius Kasparaitis injuring Eric Lindros. It was like a kind of a weird moment, but it's like the one that like sticks with you, oddly enough, because I think that was his second concussion or his first concussion that kind of really derailed him. And it's like, you think about it, it's like, oh shit. That was the end of Eric Lindros in his prime.
Oh,
what about you, man?
I'm going to tell you the moment I know. You remember, I know you're an old school attitude era wrestling fan. You know, Undertaker threw Mankind.
Hell in the Cell.
Hell in the Cell.
It was in Mellon.
Yes, threw him off the cage.
Oh, yeah. That was iconic.
He's still
right there.
He's still like recovering off of that.
Yeah, dude. I don't know how Mick Foley even got up after that. I mean, you have to be training properly. One misstep, you're like with broken bones everywhere. You're God. I mean, you obviously let him sit down for a bit. I think I remember like their old interviews with like Undertaker literally talking to him before. It's like, you sure you want to do this? He said yes. And then just like, you got to execute properly because if you don't, you're dead.
You know, the second fall when he went off the cage, when he said that was not planned.
No, so, really? I mean, that just broke. Jeez.
It broke.
So I did not realize. I thought that was scripted.
That wasn't.
Jeez. I mean, that was an incredible match in hindsight, but dude, Mick Foley had to be pretty much just banged up for weeks after that.
And you
two hard falls.
And you, Tree, what are your thoughts on the Steelers this season? We thought Ben was done a few weeks ago, mainly me and Brandon. But while he hasn't been spectacular, he has shown signs of some life lately.
I still think, like, if you think about it, he should technically be on IR. Like, they're always talking about his hip, his like throwing hand, his shoulder was banged up for a bit. Like, yeah, he's not prime Ben, unfortunately. Oh, yeah, you have the hip pad. You get the close-ups on, like, Ben's ass. And it's like you're talking about his hip. It's like, really? Oh, God.
Really? You gotta zoom in right there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have to zoom in right there. You know it.
Oh, yeah.
They could have did a side profile shot.
That's not appealing, though. People want to see the donk, apparently.
All right, Tree. All right.
But, I mean, like, I think the key with the offense, if it's going to go anywhere, you have to go through Najee. And, I mean, you don't have the offensive line right now. I think for the most part, it's just Najee, like, fighting for yards, gaining, like, 4 or 5. But I don't know how long you can do that. You're going to have to rely on the pass rush. You're going to have to rely on TJ like you did last week. And you're also going to have to hope that, like, you can eke out a couple wins, maybe 9-8, maybe best case scenario 10-7, sneak into a wild card spot and maybe go from there. But at this point, like, I mean, if you have been 10 years ago, you're a Super Bowl contender. But now, unfortunately, it's just like the offense is too limited.
All right. I'm going to just ask this question because y'all know you've been talking about, we love Mike Tomlin. He's great. But especially this year, it's glaring this year. Do you think the Steelers are actually running a team when it comes in, or they're running a charity?
I have no idea. The thing with the Steelers, they've always been based on tradition. They've always been about like letting people play out their contracts. They've never really fired anyone. I think the last person they really fired was Todd Haley, and I think his contract expired. They like either like their contracts expires or they retire, kind of like a Bruce Arians situation. Or like Randy Fichtner, he wasn't really fired, his contract expired. So I feel like that's what they kind of do with coaches. So like especially with Art II, like he knows like his dad, he always like kept his coaches until they left on their terms. Chuck Noll was there for about 20 years. Bill Cowher was there for about 15. I mean, this is the 15th year of Mike Tomlin. So I think like, while I feel like he is a good coach, I think like it may be the point where he's past his expiration date. And that happens to a lot of coaches, unfortunately. Like it happened with Andy Reid in Philly. Oh, go ahead, man. Sorry.
I was talking about with Ben when it comes to Ben.
Oh, well,
are they running a charity when it comes to Ben? I'm not talking about Tom and Tom.
Same thing. It's a loyalty thing as well. It's also like they think like they owe him a lot because apparently they led him to 2 Super Bowls. As I said, I wanted him to retire last year just because he looked like, especially later on in the year, he just looked rough. And he looks really rough this year, unfortunately. When you look and like footage from Ben from 2009, 2010, especially his maneuverability in the pocket, he just does not have it anymore. But his body's just taking a beating. And I mean, prime Ben was a special treat, but now it's just like, he's just like, you're going to have to be like, Peyton Manning in 2015, where you're going to have like everyone else, like drag him into an offense. Right. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's like, the Steelers have like a weird way of doing things. It's like a traditional way. It kind of feels like, the Giants with Eli in 2018, 2019, where you kind of like do it as more like a loyalty thing than anything.
What about at least with the wide receivers? I mean, if you're talking about potential charity, I mean, you could look at the situation with Juju Smith-Schuster, but that was more by his own volition, and now look at it. It
was.
Yeah. Do you think that the time with Juju's done? And also talk about the other receivers.
I think like it depends how much he wants to take a contract. I feel like he was gambling this year on having a really good year and parlaying that into a massive contract. He did take less money than from Kansas City and Baltimore. And I think that was more because of the way he felt and knew the offense. Like he didn't have to learn a new playbook or a new system or anything like that. And I think that's why he kind of came back here. It was a good safety valve, especially for the middle of the field. And I think I don't know if James Washington's really playing. I think they're giving that role to Ray McLeod. I think I did see that against Denver.
He had 8 snaps, James Washington.
Yeah, that's a shame because, like, I think James Washington's a talented receiver. But it's just like his time's probably done after this year, too. So you're probably drafting a wideout, probably 2nd or 3rd round. I mean, I'm guessing Colbert might retire, too. But you have to think, like, this is probably the end for Juju because they have like cap situations they're going to have to deal with. I mean, you have some contracts coming off the books on defense. Joe Hayden's going to be a free agent. You're probably going to want to extend Minka long term. You're probably thinking, trying to think who else is really due like a big contract per se. Deontay Minka. Johnson, Minka. Yeah, Minka's going to be the expansion. That's the big one. Devon Bush, you got to think about him too. Like, is he going to be the option? Like, you think he's going to be the middle linebacker of the future? Or do you think, like, he's capped out because the injuries have taken out, like, the spark of his game? So, that, yeah, I mean, the Steelers have a lot of questions they have to ask themselves.
All right, who do you think is going to be the net quarterback for 2000? I know it's a little early, third of the way through the season, for 2022, if it's not been. You think they're going to try to go after Aaron Rodgers? Because you've heard it. Or I'm not impressed with too many of these quarterbacks that's coming out in this year's draft. Who would be your man if they had a pick for your quarterback?
If they had a pick for the quarterback, if it were a guy out of the rookie class, I like what Malik Willis is doing out of Liberty. Like, I think he has like the kind of like sort of like dual threat quarterback system. He's shown flashes of brilliance, especially at Liberty. I don't know how it's going to be, but I mean, most of the time, like it's just guys who haven't really like stepped up. I mean, you're looking at like North Carolina quarterback who's kind of like there. Malik Willis, he's shown, I mean, it's Liberty. You don't know who he's playing. Spencer Rattler was supposed to be a big one. I mean, he's been bad this year. And I'm trying to think, like,
What about
Do you
Pitt
draft-
in the backyard?
Kenny Pickett.
Pickett.
Kenny Pickett. Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. Like, I think like he has a chance to spike up the draft board. He's doing really well this year, but at the same time, he had a rough couple of years the past few years. So I don't know how to really like gauge him per se. He's an interesting case. That's what I mean. He might be like a mid-round guy who, like, you know, gets a shot somewhere down the road. I can see that out of him easily. He's had a really good year. In terms of free agents, like as I said, like I would love Deshaun Watson, but unfortunately, because of his checkered record and also with, you know, the huge contract he's due and the cap situation, they're probably not getting him. I mean, if the Steelers want to keep going for it, who's really out there right now? I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to have a huge demand for him. You're probably Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, that's not really inspiring me that much. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I could see Jared Goff.
Goff. I'm not really that wild by Goff. I mean, like Detroit's going to have to eat up a ton of that salary for me to take on Jared Goff. He has not had a good year, but I don't know how much of that's Detroit and how much of that's him.
Well,
I mean, he was decent in that game against Minnesota. He was decent there, but I think that's just being snake bit. You said it in your video. Detroit just you can win in Ford Field if you're not the Lions or anywhere
Pretty
else.
Much. Literal kick of God by Justin Tucker. Sorry, I keep calling him Justin Turner. I'm watching the Dodgers game in the background. That's my that there. I would say like. I don't think who else would really be available per se. Like Teddy Bridgewater maybe is like a bridge quarterback, or do you trust like Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins? And at that point, it's like, okay, you roll the dice. I mean, because at this point, it's like, I mean, they say Ben's the best quarterback, but at the same time, I mean, there are a lot of guys that are comparable to him right now, maybe a little better, but not like 2010 Ben or like a franchise changing guy out there right now.
Would you bench Ben right now?
I don't know if they have anyone else, unfortunately. The Steelers wouldn't really like bench him. I think more or less, like, I think he needs to go on IR. Like, he's too banged up, especially like with the way they're talking about him, the way he moves, the way he winces after he falls. Like, I think he's legitimately hurt. Yeah. Especially with the way he's playing. I mean, I always felt like if he were like that bad, I feel like they're not going to like let him trot out there. They're always going to be like, look, you've done a lot for us. We're going to let you keep your money. We're going to put you on IR. We're going to let you go out with some dignity. I feel like that's how the Steelers would roll in that situation. But I mean, as I said, like, I don't know if the Steelers really trust Mason Rudolph right now. I mean, I like Mason Rudolph. I love what he did at Oklahoma City. He spiraled the ball, but like, he just hasn't been the same since that concussion in Baltimore or against Baltimore.
Yeah.
Todd, do you want me to get some of these questions from our followers?
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead.
Okay, yeah. We kind of covered some of them, but we have one from Coy Feeling at Coy Feeling. Tree, when did you first start watching the Steelers, and who was your favorite player at that time?
First time I watched the Steelers was probably in the mid '90s, probably like the second coming of the Steel Curtain era, '93, '94. Rod Woodson, LaVon Kirkland, Kevin Green, Chad Brown, like those kind of guys. Like they had some great linebackers and legends in that time. I mean, Bam Morris running the ball before he got caught with marijuana. I mean, but those were some interesting teams. I mean, some of my favorite guys that were like Kevin Green. Carnell Lake lived close to my neighborhood, so I kind of latched onto him too. So there was that. But for the most part, I would say it was around that time.
We have another one from at C.09, not necessarily Steelers related, but what was he said his, but what was your favorite congratulations video to make?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'd probably say like I had a lot of weird joy out of making No Cubs No. As weird as it sounds, it's just like it was just like so bad, and it's just like it just like felt good because it's like I unfortunately root for the Pirates, and like I always felt Cubs fans were kind of conceited, so it's just like watching them like eat it for like a couple years. It's just like this feels good. Plantar fasciitis, huh? Eat it, Joe Madden.
I gotta ask this also. You do have some like long formish videos like the Days of Our Steelers, as we mentioned earlier. There was also the collapse of Houston sports. Which
Yes.
one of those were your favorites?
Ooh, well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I absolutely hated doing Days of Our Steelers by the end because it's just like I thought it was just gonna be a one-off, separating it, and then it kept happening every week, and then it happens on the field, and by the end, I'm like, oh God, please stop. I don't want to do this anymore. As you know, growing up a Steelers fan, it's just pain to just see that happen every week. It's like, oh my God. So at least this is relaxing in the form is like there's absolutely like it's like next to no drama happening off the field, which is thank God. But
I got
Tree.
oh yeah.
Hold on. Oh, all right, Tree. I'm sorry, we're kidding. We were all excited to talk to you. One of my favorite things that you do is the legacy of failure videos. I know one video that aged like milk, and
Capitals.
I'm sorry to do this.
Capitals.
As a Washington, yes. How did it feel? I'm sorry to disrupt you, but I'm a DC native. I'm a Capitals fan. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
How does it feel? How did it feel for them to win the cup?
I felt all right for Ovechkin. You know, like those guys did all right. It's just like it was like the old memes of like the Penguins like beating Washington every year. It's like those stale memes. Like they died. That was more sad about that. If you actually think about it, a lot of those have just like fallen off like over a year or two. Like St. Louis won their cup in like 2 years. The Nationals won their cup in a year, like World Series in a year. I think there was another Andy Reid won, I think, in like 2 years.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus, like the luck was just bad on a lot of those. Although some have aged well, you know, Minnesota, Atlanta, Toronto, San Jose. But like at the same time, it's just like it's more historical reference at this point. I think the first one with Washington was more like shitposty than like historical.
Yeah.
One thing I gotta ask, because I want to ask the other Pittsburgh Steelers fan who also does YouTube, how tough is it sometimes to go like, oh God, now I gotta talk about the Steelers? You mentioned it a little bit with like Days of Our Steelers, but in terms of like a week by week type thing, like how tough is that sometimes?
It varies more or less. Like it's a lot better when they win. Although like in some cases, like the last 2 weeks, it felt like a little weird because like, I mean, they've let the opponents back in the game, even though like Denver and Seattle are kind of suspect, especially Seattle without a Russell Wilson. But I mean, at the same time, it's like when they lose badly, it's just like, oh God, you just got to rail on people for the same stuff. But it's like, I mean, they are what they are, unfortunately. You can't really say like, oh, wow. Like, I mean, I wish I could say the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they are. But I mean, it varies more or less, I would say.
Then we have about like 2 more questions here from our followers.
Yeah, sure thing.
At No Legged, how important is the next offseason for the Steelers, and what are some of your predictions about how it will turn out the future for them?
I think it's a transition year, especially. I mean, I think this is probably Ben's last ride, especially. I mean, as I said, like the injuries he's really taking on, I think his body's starting to break down. So you're looking at new quarterback. I mean, you have issues at corner, especially with Joe Hayden being a free agent. You might have an issue with middle linebacker, depending on how you feel about Devon Bush. You have like questions on the offensive line because like Trey Turner's probably gone. You don't know what's going on with right tackle. I mean, you're probably going to roll with Kendrick Green, Dotson, and Dan Moore, but how are they going to develop? Wide receiver, you're probably maybe looking at a depth free agent or somebody at the draft, but you're probably going to try and ride that offense around Najee. And then, that would be my guess.
And then we have this kind of like a 2-part. They're kind of similar, but 2 different flaws. Winston says, do you think this will be Tomlin's first year under 500? And Banshee 2X, says, has Mike Tomlin overstayed his welcome in Pittsburgh?
I mean, with the Steelers' schedule, it's like one of the toughest in football. Their second half schedule it's brutal. Like their next 3 weeks are probably the easiest stretch of their schedule. You're playing a Cleveland team that's banged up. Like they might be without Baker. They might be without Nick Chubb. They're without Kareem Hunt. I mean, JOK is going to be out for a bit. So, I mean, if you're lucky, you'll go 6-3, but I don't know. They might go 5-4, worst case scenario, 4-5. Because if you lose to Detroit, it's like, dear God, just go away. But for the most part, it's comes back to the point, as I said, the second half schedule is very brutal. I think they can go 9-8, maybe 10-7, best case scenario. But at the same time, I mean, like I don't feel confident about their abilities in January unless like the defense becomes otherworldly. And with the lack of depth, especially without Tyson Alualu, who I think is just a huge loss, especially that I don't know if you can really like survive like a long gauntlet, like against say like a Buffalo or a Tennessee or maybe say Kansas City if they ever get their act together. I mean, it mostly depends. I couldn't really tell. But
Also,
as for Tom,
no,
go ahead.
continue off. I'm sorry, that's my bad.
Yeah, as no worries. As I said, like especially with the Tomlin thing, as I said, I think he's a good coach. I think he's top 10. I think like he still has value in this league. I just fear he might be past his expiration date here. And I mean, as I said, it happens to a lot of coaches. It happened with Bill Cowher. It happened with Chuck Noll. It happened with like Tom Landry. It's happening with a few other like really good coaches. Andy Reid in Kansas City. So like, it's nothing against Tomlin in general. It's just like sometimes you just like both situations need to go their separate ways for the best of like both of their careers. So I mean, like I'm hard on Tomlin. I mean, I agree with that, but at the same time, like I respect like what he can do with like lesser like talent and ability. Like say 2019 when he dragged the team, like starting Duck Hodges at quarterback, rattled them to within playoff contention until unfortunately the wheels fell off. So I think that's like kind of the situation you have to consider with him.
I want to get your take on the AFC North as well. I've been watching the last two this week in sports ball. And you mentioned about the Ravens after their Monday night comeback that they remind you of the 2017 Steelers. And then in your episode you just released today, as we record this, you mentioned that at 5-1, this team has like so many situations where it probably should be 2-3 or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, Indy just cratered on themselves. Lamar went into God mode. Justin Tucker had a literal kick of God. I keep calling him Justin Turner. I'm watching the damn Dodgers game right now. It's
cool.
I keep getting that confused. I have to remember that too. It's like, geez. Well, Justin Tucker had a literal kick of God. First week, I mean, they should have won against Oakland or Vegas, and then they just fall off. Week 2, they just, I think, blew a tire, and then they come out and just destroy the Chargers, who I think are one of the better teams in the AFC right now. So I don't know how to gauge them, to be completely honest with you. I say 2017 because they rely on a lot of that high-end talent, like, say, Lamar Jackson, Justin Tucker. I mean, you have some big wide receivers coming back. They do have some defenders coming back, but at the same time, is it going to be enough to, like, take them to the next echelon? And
how do you feel about Cincinnati right now?
A part of me is happy for them because they've been broken for the past like 5 years. I mean, they actually have hope again. Joe Burrow. I mean, Jamar Chase is looking like a decent pick. I mean, I was on record saying they should have picked Penei Sewell, but at the same time, I mean, they do. I mean, Jamar Chase is pretty good. I mean, let's not lie there. The defense is really starting to come into form. Oh, by the way, Cincy, if you're listening, pay Jesse Bates. He's really good. Trey Hendrickson has proved he's not a one-year wonder. So I think they're really starting to mesh into something there. I don't know if they can really become a playoff team this year, but at the same time, they're at least better off than they were, say, 2016 through 2020. And I think that's the real victory since he takes from this.
And what about Cleveland? That's been the one that everyone really had their eyes on this year, and so far it's just been
it's the new factory of sadness, unfortunately, but it's because of devastating injuries. I mean, it is like against Arizona, it was sad because like they just got destroyed. There was nothing there. I mean, Baker's might be out long term. I mean, his non-throwing shoulder is probably in searing pain, and he's on like 12 different drug cocktails right now. It is just like probably that bad. Kareem Hunt's on IR. Nick Chubb, I don't know how long he's going to be out for. OBJ's having apparently more drama because he's not getting the ball. JOK's out. Devian Clowney's out. They have a couple other guys out for the season. So it's just been a really just bad luck year. And it feels like a lost year for them. It's feeling that way. mean, if they lose to Pittsburgh, it's like, which is very real. It's a very real possibility with their injuries. I don't know where you go. I don't know what you do.
And you, Tree, before we came on here, you mentioned that you learned a lot in the restaurant industry with adding it to your YouTube page. So I was wondering, can you elaborate a little bit more on what you learned? And I'm a big Anthony Bourdain fan. I loved his show, Parts Unknown, and with No Reservations was before that. Did you watch the show at all?
I did not watch Bourdain. I did watch a lot of Kitchen Nightmares and Restaurant Impossible and Bar Rescue, stuff like that. Yeah. I watched a ton of that stuff. I know you guys were coming in talking about John Taffer. And I'm like, oh Lord, I'm not that point yet. I'm just a dude. But I mean, like with restaurant industry, I mean, I feel like, it does screw you over in a lot of ways. And I mean, it's going through a tough time right now because I feel like a lot of people, especially after the pandemic, reassess their situations. And it's like, wait a minute, why am I doing this to myself? So that's why they're having a lot of shortages there. But I feel like I learned more about myself, life, people in the world than I did in 4 years of college, just because you get that life experience, at least to me.
Yeah, it's a lot like my time at Walmart, especially with that. And
that was probably an adventure.
I was a cart pusher, but so it was worse. But I imagine a lot of the situations you went through there, you kind of channel into your YouTube personality, especially during this week's in sports ball, where it just seems it
makes you a little more jaded. Let's just put it that way, especially dealing with what they call the Karens. Oh dear God, there were a bunch of those.
Oh yeah, we know about the Karens.
Buddy, I know all about them.
Oh yes.
And you, Tree, was there any radio person? We also mentioned before the show, we talked about 93.7 The Fan and stuff. And do you listen to Colin Dunlap and those guys, or do you listen to Mark Madden there?
Doesn't get much jaded in that.
Yeah. Mark Madden puts me to shame. Oh dear God, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Geez. Juju Smith-Schuster donates money to charity and gives Thanksgiving turkeys to underprivileged families in Pittsburgh. That's what it's all about. It's just every time. But I haven't really listened to a lot of local stuff now. I feel like most of the time I'm listening to more of a macro perspective. So ever since I got XM, I feel like it's just much nicer because I don't have to listen to the local stuff, and it gets pretty bad at times. It's oh dear God.
Yeah.
I gotta ask also, in terms of YouTube, I know that it's you and Chiseled Adonis that are kind of at the forefront in terms of Steelers fans out on YouTube. But are there other people that are lesser known that kind of either cover the Steelers or at least a Steelers fan that you'd like to at least highlight out on?
I think there's a guy named Adam Steele. I believe that's his name. He had a little beef with Mark Madden, and that's how I actually got his thing with him. He's a big Steelers fan as well. So definitely give him a look as well. I think he's more of he's more just a Steelers channel in general. So I would say definitely look at him.
Nice.
All right, I know you're a fan. I only listen to you. I know your boy 5 Points Vids, KTO. That's Good Sports as the Broncos got, right?
Yeah, Brandon Perna.
That's Good Sport. Yeah, Brandon Perna. How is it working with them?
It's strange. It's more or less it's just 5 Points, we do a couple streams together. We do a stream on Tuesday nights called the Dumpster Fire. Pretty low key, pretty chill. And then we do Clickbait Sports on Thursday, which is the big thing. It's actually at Tom Grossi's house. We were doing a live stream of the Packers and Steelers game together. So it was not very good for me.
Scooter Magruder's on there as well. The Cowboys.
I can't wait. I mean, he's going to be pretty rough, especially with the Cowboys being really good. So I'm not looking forward to that. I was with Perna doing a broadcast of the Broncos Steelers game too, which is just man, the Broncos are bad. Dear Lord.
But also, I if I recall correctly, there was a big collaboration with all the YouTubers. It was even guys that are much more serious about their football talk. I listen to Brett Coleman a lot for in terms of the analytical X's and O's stuff, and he kind of influenced me with a lot of that. How fun are those collaborations? Because it's it's like a differing of styles.
Oh yeah, it was more like low key. I mean, I enjoyed doing that mass collab last year. So I got like a bunch of guys who like I know I like have networked with on Twitter, or like, you know, people I talk to every now and again, like, or channels that follow me or I follow them. And I just feel like just shoot the shit like, hey, M. Plemon, you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. You want to join me on my like sports ball? And they said, yeah. I was like, okay. So it's just like, it's more like just like a general working relationship, I would say. I mean, there are times where we meet up and like hang out and do shit. Like, I mean, 5 points. We went to Daytona together to watch a race.
Yeah, Daytona 500.
Well, not the 500. It's the Coke 04. Daytona's in February.
Oh, okay.
That's a day. I wish I could go to the Daytona 500. Dear God, that'd be incredible. But like for the most part, like it's just like it's hard to really meet up with people because like they're all over the country. Like 5 points is in Virginia. Tom's in like New York. He's probably moving to Milwaukee in probably the next year or so. That's my best guess. Brandon's in Denver. I've no time to go there, unfortunately. Like Brett's in California. He's like traveling around the country. And I think he single-handedly jinxed the Cleveland Browns by being at their game against Arizona. So
what about the Carolina Panthers as well? I seen that. I was like,
yeah, I almost did a video on them. And the sad part is I did a video on the Miami Dolphins and how they were doing the right way and rebuilding properly and all that stuff. And that now they're just like, they're just crap. And I'm just like, dear God, what did I do? I thought they were going the right direction. What did you, my God. They are disappointing.
And
I don't know how to say it.
You Tree, I'm just curious to know, how'd you get the name Urinating Tree? Or how'd you come up with that?
That was just like, I wish I had this great story. It's just me being an edgelord on Xbox Live when I was 15. Like, that's pretty much all it is. It's just like, I'm playing, I think it was Rainbow Six, I think Black Arrow, I think it was. It was like a game in the mid-2000s. It was online. And then I'm just sitting there, I'm playing. I was like, you know, it'd be a funny name. Urinating Tree. And then I just like, it just stuck. I don't know why. It's just like, it's weird. It's a very like strange name. And I don't know why it stuck, but it stuck. I thought it was funny when I was 15. So, well, that's how it is.
So what is it like to have such a big following? Because when we put it out on Twitter that we're having you on, we got a pretty good amount of responses of people that knew who you were, and one guy said no way or something like that.
Yeah, add itchy bum bum.
Yeah, he was surprised.
Itchy bum bum.
but
That's a name. I should make that my name.
I'm gonna rename
Squeaking
myself.
Sports Ball with Itchy Bum Bum.
Yeah. It's small.
I mean, like you don't realize it until like you actually take a look back and realize it. It's a strange situation because you slowly grow it over time. You don't notice it. You think like, okay, like you have like a couple and then it grows a bit and then it grows a bit. And then just like it generally like escalates over time. You hope it generally escalates over time. But it's just like, you don't realize it until it's like, whoa, I'm almost at 500,000 subscribers. How did this happen? It's just like, it's just, you get so focused in like the daily minutia that you don't really pay attention to it.
Did YouTube give you one of those certification things?
Oh yeah, for the 100,000 subscribers, I actually do. I have it right here.
Oh, nice.
I didn't really announce it, but I do have it.
Nice.
They don't do one for 500K. I think they do one for $1 million.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I'm not really worried about the numbers. I'm more or less worried about putting out like a product that doesn't suck. That's my main goal out of all of them, I feel like. Because like I feel like I get guilty of trying to chase numbers as well, especially when it's like this situation, like, okay, I'm this close to 500,000 and I'm in a busy season. I got to like push. But at the same time, if you keep pushing, like the quality of the content goes down. I think like that's what I need to keep focused on. Because like numbers don't really mean anything if you're not producing anything of like quality, I feel like, at least in my mind.
I gotta ask. I've been trying to set this question up all day. Last night I was in the premiere of Chiseled Adonis's Sunday night, Monday night commentaries for the Bills and the Titans, and of course the Steelers Seahawks. One person in there mentioned like, "Hey, when are you guys gonna do a collab with you?" Because he mentions you in that video, especially on the Seahawks and Steelers side. So
yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing a collaboration episode, or have you already done it?
We've done it once. We did it for like the Week 12 sports ball. He had like a brief little segment there, but I'm definitely open to working with him again. It's just like the things haven't really worked out in that regard. Like, I just don't know if the styles would work together because I feel like he's more improv based, especially with like a lot of what he does. He's really good. I definitely don't deny that. He's very talented, mother. But I mean, as I said, like it just mostly depends on if it's like the right timing and situation. But I'm definitely open to it. It just depends on like when I feel like.
You guys got any more?
Oh, I'm good. Brandon,
I'm good. We're just, this is an honor and a privilege, man. I just want to just say that.
Dude, I'm thankful like that you guys let me on. I'm absolutely appreciate it, dude.
No, I mean, I've been looking forward to your stuff since 2006. I'm a day one guy.
Nice.
I know about the Jaguars, the Browns. You talked about all the owners and everything, legacy of failures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was, man. I'm just humbled to be talking to you for real.
I just got one last question, especially with the with YouTube and of course the copyright strikes and stuff like that. It hurts a lot of YouTubers and stuff like that. But what's your best advice for someone who wants to do similar content to you or like a lot of these other guys and just dealing with not only like the possible copyright strikes from the NFL with YouTube, but just in general going through the entire thing?
It more or less depends on like how you really approach it. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like the sponsorships, but I mean, like that's like the NFL claims everything, like mostly everything. Like the training camp vids, they really like, maybe I'm lucky they don't, but for the most part, like sports ball is insta claimed by like 9 different claims. So it just mostly depends on the leagues. I feel like MLB doesn't really claim anymore. They used to do all the time. But now I feel they've really relaxed that. The NBA's, I feel like, is the most like open. They don't really claim anything, I feel like. NHL's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes they claim, sometimes they don't. But I feel like for the most part, especially if you're starting out, don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about that. If it comes with time and I mean, if the product is quality, that will come in time, I feel like, at least in my mind. So just focus on what you're doing. Just focus on the content of what you're doing. Focus on improving yourself. And then just at the same time, like, I mean, it does get grindy as well. Like, I mean, it's taken me years to get to this point as well. So like, it's like a kind of like a labor of love per se. That's how I would say. But just like I'm absolutely like accepting of anyone who wants to do this, especially because I feel like the internet is just so open that it's like definitely like a market for anyone, I feel like. But at the same time, like don't get like beat up over like low numbers or no money or anything like that, because once again, like it's something that takes time. Like cultivate your own garden. That's like my main advice, especially to a lot of people.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing about the NBA. I heard the same thing about the NBA being they're pretty lenient compared to the NFL.
Oh yeah,
look at Chris move.
Yeah.
Oh, the NFL insta claims everything.
I wish the
NFL doesn't need us. Yeah. I'm surprised they haven't ceased and desisted, but I mean, I guess I'm lucky to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. Right. I wish the NFL was a little bit, maybe not so high on their horse, because I heard a couple of people that had YouTube channels and they got taken down because of old NFL videos and stuff that they actually filmed on their back then their VCR or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Dodger Films was an old like baseball YouTuber. They used to do live reactions to Dodgers games. The MLB filed a cease and desist. This was back in like 2015. Oh, wow. So like they thought it was like enough of like spoiling the game per se. I mean, baseball's finally embraced social media, but it's like it's far behind, say, like an NBA or even an NFL.
Wow. Well, that was Urinating Tree, one of our best interviews, and of course, fellow Point Park alum like all 3 of us. And Tree, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day. And again, we wish you the best of luck with this YouTube stuff and keep on roasting everybody, man.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on, guys.
So that'll do it for this special episode of the Renegade Blitz. We did cover a little bit of Steelers recap, but we also wanted to make sure we got this great interview because, again, We want to make sure that you guys get the best out there, the best YouTubers, the best beat writers, the best radio announcers, whatever it is. And again, we thank you so much, even for like 30 seconds of tuning in, because all of that work that you guys like go tune in and all that stuff, that's how we get these episodes and stuff like that. We look forward to doing it again, but that's all for us. For Chris Ward and Brandon Walker, I'm Ty Polk. Thank you for tuning in to the Renegade Blitz.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at @RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. Read articles on renegadeblitz.com. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. The Renegade Blitz podcast is available on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you can listen to podcasts.